Welcome back to the Now Boarding Travel Show. Japan is the fourth country that I've moved to in my life. And I can tell you, moving to another country is not all glitz and glam. So today, I'm going to tell you the top 5 things you need to know before moving to Japan. The first thing you need to know when moving to Japan is the difference between being a tourist and being a resident. Let me tell you, traveling here for 7 to 10 days is absolutely fantastic. And I'm not saying living here for several months isn't, but it is a completely different experience. If you choose to live here, you will need to find a job, get a visa, set up a bank account, and complete several documents and visit your local ward office, all in Japanese, to accomplish most of these tasks. And that's just the beginning. You're not going to be traveling around every day, especially when the same benefits for tourists, such as the JR Rail Pass, don't apply to residents. Once you are a resident, you will be paying full price for the Shinkansen and other train tickets, which is significantly higher. And you will likely encounter very crowded trains on your way to and from work during peak hours, which is especially painful during the hot and humid summer months. Assuming you will be getting a job in Japan, you'll be expected to work at least 40 hours a week, and in many cases, much more. It is also not easy making friends as a foreigner. Japanese tend to be more reserved and more to themselves compared to foreigners. There's a lot more I can mention here, so let me know if you want me to make a separate video in the comments. The second thing you need to know is housing challenges. It's a common hurdle for foreigners to be able to find apartments or rental houses in Japan. Finding the perfect place in the right location and at the right price can be a time-consuming process. In our case, it took almost 2 months, and luckily we had a relocation agency helping us. This is especially true for foreigners, as many landlords won't accept foreigners as tenants. From my understanding, this is for 2 reasons. 1, foreigners can come off as obnoxious compared to traditional Japanese tenants. Foreigners are more direct and outspoken, whereas Japanese are the opposite. The second reason is that foreigners have been known to leave their housing rentals prior to the lease ending without any notice given to the landlord. There's not much the landlord can do in these cases to recoup payments owed by the foreign tenant. My advice to foreigners looking for house options in Japan is to work with a reliable agent, preferably one who specializes in expat relocation and speaks your language. One final item that I found interesting when moving into a rental apartment is the apartment will only have the bare minimum. You will need to buy all furniture, including refrigerator, washer dryer, curtains, etc. And you'll also be responsible for removing all of those items once your lease ends. The next thing you need to know about before moving to Japan is the value of the Japanese yen. Japanese yen has been declining in value against many other currencies over the last couple of years. One of the main reasons for this is the divergence of monetary policy. While other central banks are moving benchmark interest rates higher, Japan has remained low. This makes the dollar more attractive for investors seeking higher returns. So if you're moving to Japan and will be getting paid in yen, you will want to keep this in mind if you plan on remitting money back to your home country. For me, I usually remit my money to US and Thailand. And as you can see here, over the last 2 years, the Japanese yen is down almost 23% compared to the US dollar and over 17% compared to the Thai baht. While we're on the subject of money, another important thing when moving to Japan is carrying cash. Japan is still very much a cash money system, and many places do not accept credit cards or electronic payments. The next thing you need to know before moving to Japan is finding employment. Japanese companies tend to prefer locals over foreigners for their positions. So unless you have a skill set that is in high demand and can't easily be filled by local talent, it's going to be very difficult for you to find a job. The one exception to this is being an English teacher. There are many avenues for you to become an English teacher here in Japan. So what I would recommend you do is start off in Japan as an English teacher And then as you build up your Japanese proficiency and language skills, then work on transitioning to a new occupation. Last but certainly not least is the language barrier. Now let me preface this by stating, if I was a Japanese coming from Japan, didn't speak English, moving to America, it would be much more difficult than being from America, not speaking Japanese, and coming to Japan. That being said, the language barrier is significant. While English is taught in schools, it's not really spoken. From a cultural standpoint, many Japanese get uncomfortable speaking English as they are hesitant that their English is not as good as yours. This is changing more and more, and there have been many cases where locals have gone out of their way to help me and try their best to speak English to help me out. Most print throughout the country is in Japanese, from restaurant menus to road signs to your appliances. Most TVs bought in Japan are factory set to Japanese. This would normally not be a problem as you can change the language setting. However, this is not the case in Japan. The factory language setting is the only setting. I tried to find ways to turn my TV setting to English, but with no luck. And from what I've been told, there isn't much hope in accomplishing this. Good thing is that most of the TV apps have English options. Let's get to solutions. Ideally, learn at least some Japanese before moving here. There are also some electronic devices and apps that can help bridge the language gap. But while many of them are good translating from English to Japanese, they are not so good translating from Japanese to English. For me, Google Translate has worked out the best for translating, and the camera feature in Google Translate is how I translate most Japanese writing and print to English. While many of these things may discourage people from moving to Japan, that was not the goal of this video. The goal of this video is to make sure you are fully prepared for what is to come if you decide to move to Japan. My wife and I have lived in Japan for the past year and a half, and we really love it. We've made some great friends and have had a lot of great times. While we'll likely relocate back to Thailand in 2024, Japan will always have a place in our heart, and there's no reason it can't have a place in yours too. Thank you for watching. Tune in next Wednesday for the next episode of the Now Boarding Travel Show.